The following is an exclusive presentation of News Radio KMAN, your home for K-State athletics. It's game time. This is The Game on News Radio KMAN.
Iowa women's basketball coach Lisa Bluder is retiring.
Really? This coming in just in the last few minutes?
About 30. And then 20 minutes later, they go ahead and announce the new head coach, which will be just her assistant. People might be thinking, oh, well, she just coached Caitlin Clark. She's now in the WNBA. She is completely, want to talk about pushing the women's game and not to just the present, the future. It doesn't get much better than that.
Well, I saw on Twitter today Indiana had their first chartered flight.
Yeah, the WNBA now has chartered flights. League paying for it. It's a big chunk of change, but they can afford it now, I guess, with the impact of Caitlin Clark. My thought about Lisa Bluder is they just went to back-to-back national championships and lost. And, of course, as a K-State fan, I can't imagine that pain. But I'm sure it sucks to lose back-to-back national championships with the best player of all time.
It's thrilling, but at the same time, it's so painful to lose both. The experience is so awesome, but losing in the end, that's got to kill you.
Once you get to that second one, experience whatever. You're there to win a game. There's no more moral victories. You're there to win a national championship. There's no more, hey, at least we made it. No, it's win this national championship, or you feel like this season is a disappointment, other than things surrounding Caitlin Clark. Breaking records, national spotlight, national television calling you, top broadcasters like Gus Johnson calling your games. Like, Iowa women's basketball got exposure like nobody in women's basketball ever got, even more than UConn got in a single season.
And UConn, what do they win, like 4 in a row? And I don't think anybody cared.
Yeah. It just kind of...
And they had the best player in the country, Breanna Stewart, at the same time when that was going on. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, I think you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Nobody cared.
Yeah.
I think that's correct. Now people do care. Welcome to the game. Mitch Fortner and AJ Shaw. We're with you for a full 2. Got a pretty action-packed show today. We're going to touch on a whole lot of topics. Coming up in hour number 2, though, what I'm looking forward to the most, because I love playing games. We discovered this about AJ a couple of weeks ago, and that is if the Schwab was still around at ESPN, still alive, he just passed away recently and still had the show Stump the Schwab, AJ could easily be a contestant on that show with his knowledge.
I don't think I'm as good as Schwabi. Schwabi
Maybe
knew
not.
everything.
Maybe not.
Like, I was watching some old shows of his, and like he knew stuff about horse racing and golf that I was totally
Don't worry, there will not be any golfing questions. There will not be any horse racing questions. I didn't put any hockey questions in. Tennis. We're sticking with football, basketball, baseball.
Yeah.
The subjects I know for sure that you know. But you're also not employed by ESPN. It's not your job to know all this stuff. To you, it feels like a hobby. For most people, it is a hobby.
Yeah.
Now, as you're getting into the media, now you're getting paid, technically, to know these things.
Yeah.
But I want to put you to the test once again. I'm making it a lot harder this time.
Oh boy.
I got to get a better feel for this. I really have to challenge you. And if you get through this challenge, you won't unscathed.
Yeah.
But if you do get through this ready to fight another day, I think I'll have my grasp of the game and what we can do moving forward, because I think there's a lot of potential in this. You're a really smart guy. That's very clear.
Well, thank you.
But I got to dig deep. I got to see exactly how much you know.
All right, then.
So we're going to test you coming up in hour number 2 at 5:10. We'll talk about Seth Lugo and how he is just a stud. Chiefs, they're going to be hosting the first game of the NFL season in 2024, but I feel there should have been a different game to open the season. That's all in hour number 2. Here in hour number 1, we'll talk a little Badcats, talk a little KU to the SEC. What? Leading off, let's talk about a couple of things, some housekeeping things, a lot of stuff to catch up on. One, congratulations to our winner of Passport to Cabo. I was there on Friday, and Becky from Wamego
Yeah, congrats to Becky.
is our winner of the all-expense-paid trip, 7-night stay at a beachfront condo. Villa La Valencia is the name of the resort in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't jealous. I've never been out of the country. Old host of the show, friend of mine, John Kurtz, was just in Cabo putting up all these pictures. I'm like, boy, does that look nice.
Colby Van Camp, our former colleague here, who just started his first day in Garden City today, he was there in February during the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think his family's rich. I think that's what it is.
It had more to do with his wife's job.
I think he still has a rich family.
Okay.
I think the Van Camps, when you have a last name, when you have two names in your last name, odds are you got some cash. And we're not talking new money.
Talking old money.
We're talking old money.
Well,
Van Camp, that sounds like rich people.
Well, when I first met him, I figured he was probably like some oil tycoon's son.
I mean, the guy took opera lessons and he opera sings his touchdown calls. I mean,
Yep.
you know.
I was there when he debuted
not for free.
that. I know when he debuted, the day that he debuted that, I thought it was going to bomb. But boy, it worked out great, man. Boy, it worked out great.
I told him no opera calls on his. If he called games for us, no opera calls. But we do want to thank our sponsors, of course, BriggsAuto.com. That's where we had the event on Friday. Great crowd. Most of our instant finalists were able to make it. We gave away a whole bunch of prizes before the grand prize. And, this also couldn't have been done without the Friendship House in Wamego. And if you've never been to the Friendship House in Wamego, take some time, go out there one morning, go get some brunch, or they got a great menu, great food. The beer rocks are top notch. I'm a big fan of the breakfast burritos. That's kind of a go-to for me. It's a hidden gem on the menu, but they also have a hell of a bakery. The peanut butter cinnamon rolls
Oh, my God.
are the Michael Bishop of cinnamon rolls.
Woo!
Have you had them?
I have. I have to agree with you. They're pretty good.
It's a go-to for Lindsay. So if you've never been out there, go for a drive out to Wamego. Go get something to eat when they open up in the mornings. And they're right across the street from the park there in Wamego. You will not regret it. The beer rocks, though, very good. Very good. And then I want to take some time as well to say congratulations to AJ Shaw. Because AJ is now officially entering the real world. School's over, folks. Time to start paying some bills. Can I take a guess how much student debt you have? Or did maybe I should ask, was there any assistance with this?
There was assistance. I don't have any student debt, surprisingly.
So my suspicions are true.
Yep.
The Shaw family, with no space, is loaded with greenbacks.
We're not that rich.
Paid for school out of state tuition, man. That's not cheap.
Oh, my goodness.
But
it was bad. We're not going to complain about it.
So your parents did come to town?
They did come to town.
What's your parents' names?
Mark and Lynn.
Shout out to Mark and Lynn.
I'm sure one of them is listening right now.
First time or a couple times have they been here to Manhattan?
Yeah, they've been here several times.
Good.
My dad's been a few times, and he's a big fan of Texas Roadhouse. We always got to go there.
No Texas Roadhouses in the Chicago area, Chicagoland area?
Not to my knowledge, no. There might be one really far away though. But yeah, they came out. We hung out a little bit on Friday night. Then Saturday was graduation. Had to get up at like 6:30. I didn't want to get up that early. Got in line there. Saw Gabby Gregory. She graduated with the Arts and Sciences and Communication. So shout out to Gabby Gregory. Yeah, they had a little ceremony. Frank Trace gave a nice commencement speech, the band director there, and got my diploma. And then after that, we headed down to Topeka. Went to the Evel Knievel Museum.
I forgot that was there.
Yeah, pretty interesting. Went and saw a movie. Went into the new Planet of the Apes movie.
Good. I love the Planet of the Apes movies, with the exception of Mark Wahlberg's version in 2001. Mm-hmm. The rest of them are great.
Yeah, it was solid. It at times is a little hard to follow, but it was an interesting movie. It was pretty good.
If you know the backstory, if you've been watching all the movies that have been coming out since 2008, I'm kind of guessing there. It's a good story.
So I went and watched the first one when it came out in like 2011 of the new series I got.
But real quick though, sorry to cut you off, but they're now to the point where in the franchise or in the timeline where basically the apes have taken over.
Yes.
Humans don't really talk anymore, and all the apes are speaking good English.
Yes, pretty
Okay.
much.
Yeah.
I'm not going to spoil the ending for those who haven't watched it but are planning on watching it, but definitely you should go check it out. It's a little long, I would say. I think they could have made it about 45 minutes shorter to get the point out.
Okay.
But it was pretty good. Yeah, and then Sunday had a little breakfast, and I drove back here, and they went back to Illinois, and that was the end of it.
Have your parents ever been to a K-State game?
No, they've not. They've watched it on TV, but they've never been to a game.
Do your parents like sports? Do your parents follow? Like, did you get your fandom in any way from trivia knowledge to just rooting for teams from your folks?
So I got the fandom from my parents, my mom, because my mom was unfortunately subjected to being a Cubs and a Bears fan. So that's how I became a Cubs and a Bears fan.
A lot of pain.
Yeah, a lot of pain.
Yeah.
My dad, not really a big sports fan, but he's from Southern Illinois, and where he's from is kind of nearby St. Louis. So he grew up a Cardinals fan. He grew up a Cincinnati Reds fan because of the Big Red Machine, and a Pittsburgh Pirates fan. Of course, those are 3 division rivals of the Cubs. So he would give me a lot of crap when I was a kid, watching the Cubs lose every year and watching those teams be successful. But yeah, I got my fandom primarily from my mom, who got it from her father, my late grandfather, who was a huge sports fan.
It used to be when I was growing up because the Chiefs were just as crappy. Actually, the Cowboys were still good. The Chiefs had some really bad years. Mm-hmm. And if there was any other back and forth, either with family or friends, mostly with friends, that would be we'd poke fun at each other if our teams were doing bad for just a game. Mm-hmm. It was just a game-by-game thing. Mm-hmm. Now that the Cowboys are still not getting to NFC Championship games, they'll get to the playoffs. Mm-hmm. They'll win a division. They'll win the East. But they're not making it to the NFC Championship game. Now the Chiefs have won 3 of their last 4 Super Bowls. I'm hearing it a lot now.
I don't give you a lot of crap for being a Cowboys fan.
3 of the last 5. 3 of the last 5.
I don't give you a lot of crap for being a Cowboys fan, I feel.
Well, listen, things are obviously going to turn around. It started last year with Deuce Vaughn, and now Cooper Beebe on the roster. Well, again, congratulations, AJ.
Thank
Did you get it all done 4 years flat?
Yes, sir.
Congratulations.
Mm-hmm.
If Dave Ramsey was listening, he'd be very proud of you.
Well,
4 years, no debt. That's
I
the
will
way to
say
do
I'm
it.
not the smartest at times with money. I spend it a little too much on food, so he may not like that. But
Listen, if you're a college kid, you do what college kids do.
yes, sir.
And I'm guessing that was a lot of fast food.
Yes, a lot of fast food, probably
You're
too
a
much.
college guy.
Yeah.
Let's take a break. Let's get to the sports when we come back, including in this hour. We'll talk a little Batcats struggling the last couple of games. In Morgantown, they did get game 1, and now they're into the last series of the regular season as they host BYU starting on Thursday. It'll be Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at Toyton Family Stadium. We'll play Stump the Shaw to lead off hour number 2. But when we come back, K to the SEC. What's that all about? We'll discuss next. Woohoo! Woohoo! I wasn't done with my woohoos yet. Woohoo! Okay, that's it. Hour 2 of the game, or hour 1 of the game, excuse me, continues here on K-Man. Miss any of the show? Just search for The Game on 1350 K-Man wherever you listen to your podcasts. I'm a Spotify guy myself. So keep up with what's going on with the Cats, what's going on with our local sports. Speaking of local sports, did have a couple of things on the docket today when it came to high school sports. Regional softball, Riley County and St. Mary's. And then you had regional golf with Manhattan and Milford, Frankfurt visiting Washington. So those have all been postponed to tomorrow. Rain, obviously, all day will put a damper on those kind of things, those outdoor sports. So
As somebody who played high school baseball in Illinois, I am too familiar with that.
boy, I feel like we need more information on that. You played baseball in high school?
A little bit.
What positions?
So I played primarily outfield, but I played a little bit of second base as well. Great fielder, couldn't hit. And if you can't hit, you can't play.
Omar Infante.
Yeah, shout out to him, man. That's a blast from the past. Only 10 years ago.
That's just, when you say can field, can't hit, Omar Infante. Second base, because you said second base. Second base?
Shout out to him, man. And he played forever. Tigers, Marlins, Royals.
I just remember him as a Royal.
Yeah.
14.
See, my favorite Royal was Ben Zobrist. He was there for not that long.
Yeah, he's a trade. Yeah.
And then he went over to the Cubs and won another World Series.
Yeah, did.
MVP.
Back-to-back years.
Yeah.
Shout out to old Ben Zobrist.
Mm-hmm.
There was something unique about his time in Kansas City, other than winning a World Series, of course, but I can't remember what exactly it was. Anyway, listen, the Royals are in such a heater right now. That's certainly added some optimism to my fandom for sure.
Yeah.
We'll talk a little bit about that, and coming up in hour number 2, who hasn't been very impressed with Seth Lugo. Man, just crushed Angels yesterday. 12
Fantastic.
strikeouts, a career high, 12 strikeouts. He is just, and the numbers. I mean, the numbers compared to other pitchers in the American League, he's crushing. Absolutely crushing right now. Royals getting their money's worth so far.
Yeah. KC Sports, actually, it wasn't KC Sports. Curtis Seabolt put out a tweet earlier. They tied one of their best 42-game starts in franchise history. A couple of those teams that were in there, 1976 team that won the division, 1980 team that went to the World Series.
I mean, it feels, not to give away my whole 520 segment, but it feels like Kansas City could be a playoff team. I don't want to get my optimism up there too high. Maybe reel it back in a little bit here. We still got a ways to go. We got 20 games to go at this point. Royals are doing pretty good right now, though. It's a lot of fun. I mean, Royals might start to become an everyday topic here in a little bit if they continue to play super well, but they're not quite there yet.
How was we'll talk more about it.
Pretty average offense.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about more at 5:20 about how that experience was on the show back in 14 and 15.
Oh, it was okay. Wasn't much else to talk about since Cats weren't exactly, well, they were all right. I think they were like Alamo Bowl type team back then. Mm-hmm. All right, let's get to, interesting headline that I saw pop up over the weekend. Greg Pfluger, as I believe how you say his name. He has a YouTube channel talking about college football. Minnesota guy, does a good job. I've caught his show once in a while where he really kind of made himself stand out when it comes to his sources as he broke the news that the Big Ten was going to get USC and UCLA. Mm-hmm. And gained a lot of trust with that and a lot of followers because of that. Well, on a recent show, he did talk about the SEC and my favorite topic in the whole wide world, conference expansion. That is a joke. It is my absolute least favorite topic to talk about. I'm just doing it because I feel like I'm being forced to talk about it because I think it's ruining the integrity of college athletics. I could go on and on. But the latest, it's not really even a rumor. It's a whisper. It was just a discussion. Something that was brought up as, it is summertime. This is when conference realignment speculation does run wild. Mm-hmm. But he has said that through his sources, he has heard that the SEC might have a little bit of interest in bringing KU to the SEC. And again, it's whisper. The whispers are so quiet, you got to ask 4 times for the person to repeat themselves. It's like one of those rumors, and this happens in wrestling once in a while. Well, they'll tell a certain individual about a rumor. Something is in the works. Something big is happening. And if that word gets out to the dirt sheets or to the media, they'll know who leaked it. It was a test. It feels like one of those things because this seems like a major outside shots, and there's a lot of areas we can look at this. But where this obviously all starts is the ACC. Right now, that foundation, that damn wall is cracked. Mm-hmm. It is just waiting to burst open.
Yep.
And don't even need the floodgates. The whole thing is going to burst open. And
it's nearing Pac-12 level.
The beginning of the end for the ACC feels like it could be on the horizon. It's not going to happen now, but somewhere down the road it is because you have Florida State, you have Clemson, multiple lawsuits with multiple states involved where Clemson and Florida State, the lawsuits are over the Grant Rights Agreement, which keeps the ACC schools in obviously the TV contract deal, but that's for another 12 years. And it is a bad deal. The money is super low. It is not competitive with the other conferences, and that's the argument. But I believe some of those cases have been put on hold for a while, so we're at a standstill with that all right now. But I mean, once one program leaves the ACC, it's game on.
Yep.
And then conferences are going to continue to expand. There's blood in the water. And it wouldn't just be the SEC. Big Ten is going to be involved. The Big 12 is obviously going to be involved because there's another opportunity to expand. Not only just expand, it's not so much football. A little bit of branding is involved. It's basketball. And the hot commodity would be North Carolina.
Yep.
Now, again, just a very, very, very slim rumor. I don't see it happening for multiple reasons. But I asked the question, why would the SEC want to expand? Football's king. SEC is king. They're in a pretty gosh darn good spot right now. At where they stand right now, with the addition of Oklahoma and Texas, they still hold the integrity when it comes to geography of their conference. OU and Texas being added obviously makes sense. And really, it's not about geography anymore. Conference realignment is about branding. To me, it's as simple as that, which is kind of point number one, is why, doesn't make the most sense in the world. It doesn't a little bit, and I'll explain why, but, the Kansas City market, it's not like people are dying to have it. Lawrence is basically a suburb of Kansas City, as we learned in the Big Ten's pitch. But KU, if you're going to do a pitch again, put that one in the trash and start thinking about branding. What is KU's brand? Basketball. It's like Greg Sankey is going to take, if this were to be a real thing to happen, Greg Sankey is going to start taking a play out of the Brett Yormark playbook, and that is, what is the possibilities of making more money with basketball? They have everything they need with football. Everything they need. They're sitting pretty, and so is the Big Ten. But it's like Greg Sankey finally started noticing all those pay stubs from the money they were making from the NCAA tournament. He's like, oh, you can make money in basketball? The people watch the NCAA tournament? We can make millions upon millions of dollars just from 3 weeks of basketball?
It's a novel concept.
That has to be that. I mean, to me, it's common sense. It has to be the connection. That's where you would continue to grow. Mm-hmm. But it's like, what do we know the SEC for? We know them for football.
Yep.
Here's an interesting question. What's second in the SEC?
Baseball?
Honestly, that's kind of where I go.
Yeah.
Baseball. The SEC is a phenomenal baseball conference. Mm-hmm. They're in Omaha all the time.
Yep.
Every year.
We had 2 SEC teams in the College World Series last year.
The Big 10, or the Big 12 rather, is, the best basketball conference in America. And if the ACC were to break apart, there are clearly a lot of opportunities. I mean, there was once upon a time the Big 12, it sounded like they were interested in Miami. Miami has a little something to offer now in basketball. I mean, Louisville, that might be an addition. But anyway, again, not my favorite topic in the world. But there's the connection. It would have to be through basketball. We're in an era now where there's a thing called reduced share.
Yes.
In the TV rights deal, and how much, here's your case in point. Oregon and Washington, who have joined the Big Ten, and they're going to be at a reduced share. They're not getting as much as everybody else. And, KU would have to ask themselves, is it worth it to make the move? They would, if you just think about it this way, like if, as a K-State fan, if the Big Ten or SEC came calling, it may not make the most sense in the world, but you want to talk about stability. Whew. We're on our way to two major we're already at 2 major conferences. They're just going to get bigger.
Yeah, we're going to have mega conferences, essentially.
It is only a matter of time. But KU to the SEC doesn't make the most sense in the world to me. But there are chances for it to make sense.
From a football standpoint, it makes 0 sense.
No, not at all. They would not be added for football.
No.
There's no way.
No.
Great, they're building a new football stadium. Great, it looks like a chewed-up wicker basket. It'd also be probably the smallest stadium in the conference.
Yeah.
The border war, great,
It's not a lot there to be excited about if you're
it's just
the SEC.
That's about it from football.
Historically bad records up until the last couple of years.
Cool, like Missouri and KU hate each other. That would be the fifth most interesting. Maybe not even the fifth, maybe even lower than that.
Yeah.
When it comes to most interesting rivalries in the SEC, you know. So again, this is there's not a whole lot to it. It's really just all speculation. That's about as far as you can take it, but that's conference realignment. College football fans, we're all playing the speculation game, you know, all the time. Of where this could go next. I don't like thinking about it, but it's just our reality. Where do the conferences go year in and year out? And the ACC, I mean, Florida State, Clemson can't wait to get out. And it sounds like there's a few others possibly right behind them. But it also, you know, and there's a lot in play as well. It's like, you know, North Carolina. So the Board of Regents, you know, there's obviously not only is North Carolina, but you got NC State in there as well.
Yes.
And they could be joined at the hip. They could be over as partners. Clemson and Virginia have been, you know, if it is like a 4-team move, that's where KU then comes into play.
Yes.
4 schools, if they want 4, that's where KU comes into play. If it's 2, KU is absolutely not in play.
Yes.
All right, let's take a timeout. When we come back, started out as a good weekend, turned into a pretty rough weekend for K-State baseball as the regular season is winding down. Talk a little Batcats after these words. The game continues. Mitch Fortner, A.J. Shaw taking you to 6 o'clock. Hour number 2 will feature my new favorite game, Stump the Shaw. Put A.J. Shaw to the test with some pretty tough sports trivia to see how smart he really is. Talk a little Royals baseball in hour number 2 as well. What game I feel like should be opening up the NFL season instead of the Chiefs and Ravens? That was announced earlier this morning. I was live on air when the news broke. And that'll be a Thursday night game on September 5th to kick off the 2024 regular season campaign. Well, K-State baseball finishes its road schedule, its true road schedule, with a Friday, Saturday, Sunday series at West Virginia. The Cats were looking for their first series win in Morgantown since 2018. They got the game 1 win 4-3, but then they get crushed in back-to-back games Saturday and Sunday, being outscored 25-5. And the Mountaineers win on Saturday 13-0, and then on Sunday 12-5. I've been recently watching the K-State batting numbers like a hawk because in this month of May it's been real rough, and it all kind of really circles around, well, 2 guys. And those 2 guys have been Chuck Ingram and Brady Day. Brady Day's been staying, you know, solid where he is in the lineup, and he hit 250 this weekend. He's hitting 250 over the last 10 games. But for Chuck Ingram, Chuck has struggled. He has been on the struggle bus over the last 16 games. Now, luckily, Chuck finally had his first multi-hit game yesterday for the first time in, I believe, in 8 games. But he's been really struggling, and Chuck Ingram over the last 10 games is only hitting 172. And I mean, you brought him in as a great bat out of Wichita State, can go out there and hit home runs, and he's still your guy. He's still your leader with home runs. But an issue lately for K-State is they're not hitting any home runs. There's no long ball. It's singles and doubles.
And that's the ups and downs of a baseball season, pretty much. You're going to have those times where you just have a lull offensively. I mean, early in the year, the Cats didn't pitch great. Pitching's been okay recently, but the bats, I mean, that's just what looked like to be a big piece early in the year just isn't happening right now.
Well, the bats, yeah, I mean, first half of the season was really good. I would have argued with anybody, K-State has had one of the best offensive attacks through the first half of the season. Mm-hmm. It has then tailed off and has been certainly below average.
But what helped, too, is your leadoff guy gets on base, Brendan Jones. I mean, when you have that table setter at the top of your lineup helping you getting on base and helping you score runs, that's huge. And he's been doing his job. The problem is the guys in the middle aren't driving him in.
And Chuck Ingram has slid down the lineup. He had been in the middle third, and I believe in this past weekend, actually the last couple of weekends, he's been in the bottom third. But, I mean, K-State against West Virginia as a lineup hit 170. That is not going to win you any series.
Nope.
And K-State had just enough offensively to win on Friday, but what put K-State in that possibility of winning? was 26. Owen Borma. 7 innings, 3 earned, 5 hits. He struck out. A great outing
Probably his best of the season.
from Owen Borma. Bullpen comes in, and they take care of business. And then the rest of the weekend, it was just kind of a, too many 3-up, 3-down innings. Just couldn't really get anything going.
Defense didn't step up big, made some very costly errors.
Because K-State Sunday was facing a pitcher who had an ERA over 6, I believe, entering the game, and they just couldn't get any hits. Just couldn't square it up and get one in the outfield into the gap and put some string of hits together. And K-State just got crushed there in the early parts of the Saturday-Sunday games.
Well, also you have to remember, that's a pretty darn good West Virginia team. I mean, they won the Big 12 last year in baseball. They have their shortstop, I forgot his name, but
J.J. Weatherholt.
yeah, he's one of the top prospects coming into this year's draft.
And he crushed K-State a couple of times. He'll be a top 10 draft pick.
Yeah, he's very good. I mean, that's a very good West Virginia team.
Was asked, and AJ, you can jump in on this question as well. Got asked on Twitter if we could address, why can't K-State find a Sunday starter that will go out there and pitch well consistently, but also why does the defense just make mistakes that cost us every game? I mean, I wish I could answer the whys,
Yeah.
clearly pointing out 2 major issues. The assists seem like they're going to be more than this last year. I think they're at 50 right now. Last year, K-State had 53. And there's 2 guys in the infield that have certainly struggled in the field more this year than they did last year, and that is Brady Day and Kalen Culpepper. Culpepper had 3 errors this weekend.
Yeah.
And it seemed like routine plays.
Yeah.
K-State has fumbled the routine play way too often this year. And that's where you really get in trouble.
Yeah.
It's, give you an example, like a 3-run homer. How'd the guys get on base? It really kills you when you're giving up the free bases like a hit by pitch and a walk, and this has happened a few times this year. And then there's all of a sudden 2 guys on with an out, and then here comes a home run hitter who knocks one out of the park, and he gave him basically 2 free runs. That's where K-State's gotten themselves in trouble this year.
But that's just how the game is sometimes. The biggest thing is mental errors. Physical. This is what I learned from a coach long ago. You'll make physical errors. It's going to happen. It's just part of the game. It's when you're not mentally in the game. And if you're not mentally in the game, especially when you go up against a team like West Virginia or OU, you go down a couple of runs to them, that game is over. I don't care how good your lineup is. You go down 3-4 runs to a team like that, that game is over.
The other part about that is this Sunday starter. I mean, that's kind of been a revolving door. It feels like this year. We've seen a number of guys. Josh Wintrobe has been all over the weekend this year. Owen Borma slid back into the Friday spot. This weekend
hasn't pitched great the last couple times out.
Yeah, Jackson, don't get me wrong, Jackson is a phenomenal pitcher, and I don't have the numbers in front of me on what he did Saturday. If I make sure I get my days correct here, because I need to look at the numbers here. But so Saturday game for K-State, it was Jackson Wentworth, right, that pitched that day?
I believe so.
And
because Wintrobe went yesterday, I think, right?
Because remember, there was it was Wentworth. Remember, there was a rain delay, or there was a lightning delay.
Yes.
I was wondering how that affected. And Derek Clark, who's so good for West Virginia, didn't really affect him at all. He went 7 innings, struck out 10, and only gave up 2 hits, no runs. Well, Wentworth did give up 4 earned in 6 1/3. Not the worst outing. He was gives up 1 last run. You're at a quality outing.
Yeah.
For Jackson Wentworth, but
I thought he threw the ball well. I mean, he had some jams against KU, but he threw the ball okay in that game.
Here's the issue with the pitching, and that is you got a couple of really strong guys, Wentworth, Owen Borma. Borma's been really good his last 2 outings. I think Blake Dean has shown some consistency this year, especially in the second half of the year. Tyson Neighbors, after that really rough Friday against KU, but he still came out with the save, has been doing much better to close out some ball games. But outside of those guys, and Tyrell just still isn't himself, but there is a major lack of consistency. You have guys that can go out there and not consistently, but sometimes go out there and give you a good inning or 2. Mm-hmm. But it just, for so many guys, it has not been consistent. And I think Jacob Frost is a great example of that. I'm not trying to pile on by any means, but he's just an example of many that I think is on this team. Come out of the gates. First game against Georgetown. He's a Sunday starter. Goes 5 innings, give up 1 run. Then the next outing against Holy Cross, 1 inning, 5 earned runs.
Yeah.
Against a much lesser team.
Yeah.
It's just kind of been a roller coaster type. And then the next 2 games he comes out, gives up 1 run in 12-plus innings. Mm-hmm. And then against Missouri State, 6 runs in 3. It's been real up and down for some guys. So
I will say one guy that's been tremendous, J.J. Slack.
Yeah, Slack recently, especially at home, has been pretty good.
Yeah, he's been good. Weisenbaker, outside of yesterday, I think has been pretty solid.
It's just the scary part about this team, and I think it's been a consistent part of the last few years of K-State. Good at home. They could be better on the road. Mm-hmm. But then they show up to the Big 12 tournament and get to the semifinals every year.
Yeah.
But what do they run into every time? That second game in the semifinals, they don't have enough pitching.
Yep.
And I think it's going to be the same thing. The only difference is they had a strong enough schedule and picked up enough wins that they're going to get into the NCAA tournament as a 3 seed. Let's take our last break of the first hour. We'll finish up hour 1 next. Hey, Jay, you been watching any of the UFL? I watched a little over the weekend, and I got to watch Adrian Peterson. 9 a.m. Adrian Martinez and don't forget Elijah Sullivan. They both play for the Birmingham Stallions. They're the best team in the UFL, formerly known as the XFL. They were taking on the St. Louis Battlehawks, and they won 30-26. And there was a great pass from Adrian Martinez on one of the plays that went in for a touchdown. And there was a part of that play that I was like, man, the NFL and college football, they need to have something like that. So we know like the overhead camera, whatever that's called, the sky cam. That was once upon a time, I believe, stolen from the XFL, stolen idea from the XFL. But so the UFL is taking it to another level, and I think this is pretty cool. It's a drone cam. So there's a drone flying around the field, and when there's a big play, the drone follows that player but gets like really close to them. And when this touchdown took place, that drone was basically in the guy's face mask, super close. I was like, what a unique way to capture a touchdown. That is something the NFL needs to add. All right. Can't wait for this. Kicking off hour number 2, we play Stump the Shaw. We once again test AJ with his extraordinary knowledge of sports. Talk a little Royals, talk a little NFL. Chiefs playing the opening game of the NFL. I don't think it should be them this year. Ask us anything. Hour 2 coming up. So is your local news after this.